where we talk about mindfulness and kind of how it's kind of what is mindfulness. Hello, welcome. And how it's being used in the schools in Melrose, and then also some ways that you might want to integrate it and think about it. I was doing collaborative problem solving in the other sessions, but thinking about what a role that mindfulness plays kind of in all the work that we do, and how it's really hard to engage in collaborative problem solving unless you can kind of take that pause to think about what you're going to say and do. And so this plays such a huge role in all of the different things that we do. So I'm just going to start with just this little video, kind of help us think here and enter into the space and just hear some kids' perspectives on it.
I get really mad when my brother hits me a lot.
I don't like it when you say you don't want to play with me.
When I'm mad, my brain can get a headache and it can start hurting.
Your blood keeps pumping because you're like really mad. And you start to get sweaty because you're getting really, really mad. And then when you start getting really mad, you turn red.
When your body can't really control yourself, mad just takes over your body. I just get out of control. It's kind of like if you had a jar and then the jar would be your brain and then you put glitter in the jar and that would be how you would feel. If you shook up the jar and the glitter went everywhere, that would be how your mind works. And it's like spinning around and then you don't have any time to think.
And you sometimes punch stuff and people when you don't really mean it.
When I get angry, I feel it in my heart. I really don't like when I get angry.
The amygdala really reacts, but the prefrontal cortex tries to keep it down.
When I feel like I want to, get really angry and yell, I just sometimes,
Take deep breaths. First you find a place where you can be alone, then you find some way to relax and calm down.
When I need to calm down, I take deep breaths.
I breathe in through my nose. Sometimes I close my eyes or just take deep breaths.
It's coming down, it's not moving. It's slowing down and then it stops. And the heart pumps slow and then it goes into your brain.
It's like all the sparkles are at the bottom of your brain.
My brain slows down and then I feel more calm and then I'm ready to speak to that person.
And thinking about it, I'm just gonna have some, after 3 sessions, I'm like, all right, I need a little minute to breathe. So I want to start by saying a big thank you to Melrose Ed Foundation for sponsoring a grant that Jess, Patty, and I wrote, that we took an 8-week course through Mindful Schools called Mindful Educator Essentials. And part of a lot of the work that we're doing in Melrose kind of around social emotional learning, and we had done a whole bunch of professional developments over the course of the summer and at the start of the school year for staff, really digging into social emotional learning and what it means. And we really think that mindfulness plays a big part in it, because I don't think you can be self-regulated and possess all those other skills that you need if you can't be aware of kind of what's going on for you. So I appreciate the foundation for sponsoring that, and it's something I have used in my classroom for a while now, but just by taking the course in the spring, it really helped me understand it. And it's just something I'm so super passionate about right now, because I really feel like I'm like, this is it. Like, this is helping kids get to that self-regulation piece. This can help kids get to that academic piece. We just have to stop and be present to realize what we're doing. So I'm really excited by all the work going on around this. So kind of my mindfulness journey, it's something I did in my classroom every single day. In my classroom, you know, during academic time, I was like, you gotta be doing something. What are you doing? You're doing nothing. You gotta be doing something. Come on, we're learning. But then after lunch would be the one time I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna do anything. And ironically, that's the time of the day when they would start doing stuff. I'm like, no, like this is the time. I'm not gonna hassle you. I'm actually gonna say you can do nothing right now. Just to kind of re-enter the space after lunch and recess and whatever happened, to kind of just re-enter into the space. So it was something, it was like, you know, I would always be over here, just kind of keep an eye open, but like it was more for me too to be like, all right, we got the afternoon, we're gonna do it. So it was a practice that I loved doing every day. And then since taking this course and doing some work with Melrose school teachers, kind of doing it with my children too. My 13-year-old refused to have a picture taken. But my other two, this was when we were doing the book study and they were practicing some of the different kind of breathing things that you could do. So Jonah was doing the ninja breath, that was his favorite one. And she was doing the hot chocolate breath. But so as a parent now, I'm trying to really figure out how can I support this and support myself at home to kind of bridge the two together. So those are kind of my two lenses from where I'm coming from. So like I said, we're gonna start kind of defining what mindfulness is, and then we're gonna talk about how it's being used in the schools, and then talk about ways that you might wanna incorporate it into your life. So what is mindfulness? So really kind of synergized short version of it is it's kind of paying attention in a particular way in the present moment, and it's non-judgmental. And I think that for me is the most important thing. I've practiced yoga for a while, and the hardest part of yoga is always, like, ironically, the part where you just have to be still. And I would always get so mad at myself. Like, I would be laying there, and then your shopping list comes in, or something that happened at work came in, and I'd be like, oh, and then they'd ring the bell, and I'd be like, darn it. And I'd be like so mad at myself. But then, like, taking this course, they're like, don't be mad at yourself. Like, why are you mad at yourself? Like, that's just your brain working. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I was so mad at myself for not doing it the right way. And I was supposed to be so calm and zen. And by doing these guided practices with these teachers, they were like, no, just let a thought come and be like, oh, there's a thought. All right, come back. And bring it back. And so I think that's the most important thing, is that it's not, don't judge yourself. Like, it's just a practice. I really like this definition too, that it's a practice that allows us to pay attention to our experiences in a way that allows us to respond rather than react. And so that's a big part of our work that we're doing. And it's a quality of kind of like this inner stillness that's always available to us. So we want it to be like a tool for our students and for ourselves, that it's always there. Like, we can always access it if it's a muscle that we've strengthened and we can build it up. Even when our life or circumstances feel out of control and chaotic, like, I'm so angry at that friend for taking the ball from me, you know, or I'm just like, I'm so mad at that person that didn't follow the four-way stop rules. Like, oh, you know, like, you just, in the moment, you just get so, and like, how do we just, you know, kind of tap into that? And then kind of thinking about is being present, exploring your emotions. Kindness plays a big part in that. We'll get to that in a little bit. Kind of being thankful, and then incorporating some mindful movement is a big piece in the schools. The science, there's lots of science behind mindfulness. And in our course we learned, and I didn't have a chance to pull up my notes from the class, but there's 30 plus years of research, but it started way, I want to say, maybe in like the 30s or 40s. It was in a hospital, and they were trying pain reduction with medication, and nothing was working for these patients. And so like starting a long time ago, people were kind of trying to figure out ways to use mindfulness, and for these, you know, particular set of patients, it worked, and they were able to reduce their chronic pain and their stress. And so they started to say, I think there's something to this. And so since then, they've been doing lots of research on adults, and then now that we see it works with adults, we're like, oh, I wonder if it can work with children too. And so now there's a lot more emerging research around children that has proven scientifically through research that you can decrease your stress and your pain, and you can really increase their emotional well-being. So there's a lot of science behind this to kind of back it up. And then the why do we practice mindfulness? And studies find that learning mindfulness benefits students in many ways. And if you were here last year, you got to hear Dr. Christopher Willard speak, and then he kind of prompted a lot of work within the schools. He came to visit our school and talked, our schools and talked to us. But research has shown that you can have increased attention, kind of increased empathy for your peers and understanding where they're coming from, your emotional regulation and your social skills, behavior in school, test anxiety. Like, how can we use mindfulness to kind of help us deal with all these different factors in our lives? And research has shown that it does help with this. And kind of how does it help? So the brain is fascinating, and in the past couple of years I've just been reading and learning so much about it. And this is Dr. Dan Siegel, who does a great kind of little hand model of the brain. So we're going to watch his video and then we'll kind of talk about it a little bit more.
One of the most rewarding experiences for me has been to study brain science and apply it to the experience of parenting. And the hand model of the brain that I use to teach parents is very useful to understand that. So if you take your thumb and put it in the middle of your palm, put your fingers over the top, this is a very useful model of the brain. And when we can actually see in front of us what's going on in the brain, then we can change what the brain does. So let me walk you through very basically what happens in this brain and the structures in it. And it goes like this. The spinal cord comes up, representing the wrist, and then you have coming up into the skull, the brain stem and the limbic area, which work together to help regulate arousal and your emotions and the way you have a fight, flight, freeze response. These are below the cortex, the limbic and brainstem areas, and the cortex is this higher part of the brain that allows us to perceive the outside world, to think and reason. And this frontmost part of the brain, right behind your forehead, so the person's oriented like this, is actually the part that regulates the subcortical, limbic, and brainstem areas. This regulation is very important because sometimes we can have all sorts of things happen in our life. We're tired, we're exhausted, someone pushes a particular emotional button, and we can flip our lids. So rather than being tuned in and connected and balanced and flexible, we can lose all of that flexibility, even lose moral reasoning, and act in ways that are terrifying to others, including our children. Now, you can actually bring yourself back online and come back to the high road and make a repair with your child, and that's important to explain to them. And you can also use this hand model of the brain to explain to children, even as young as 5 and 6, how to understand when their emotions are rising up from the brainstem and limbic areas here, and how it's overriding the prefrontal area and making it so they may be about to flip their lids. So I've had kids come tell me that they're about to go flip their lids and they need a break. They need a timeout. And by even just naming that, they can tame it. And that's the power of using the hand model for ourselves and our children to help us all make sense of what goes on in the emotional communication that we have in the course of day-to-day life.
Awesome. And I find the brain science really interesting, and when I get later to kind of like how I'm incorporating mindfulness for myself and my family, that kind of brain model and talking about the research helped me kind of bring my oldest one on board. My other two kind of would get more into like the emotional, like, yeah, I want to kind of feel good, but my oldest is like very rigid, very black and white, like, well, what would it matter? Like that, you know, like just very logical. And so by explaining this to her, I've gotten to her to kind of do a little bit of mindfulness kind of with me, but by saying like, gosh, you know what, it's been proven like with teenagers who are getting stressed out, it actually helps, and this is what happens. So the science part behind it has helped me kind of bring my oldest on board a little bit. Not always, there's some days she's like, no, I'm not doing it.
Not to derail this, but I'm a school psychologist, so I have another analogy that I use when I'm working with kids, a light switch. And I have them go turn on the light switch and turn it off and explain in this way.
Absolutely.
How do we have that control? So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Absolutely, yeah, and there's like, and I
So
think the
many
more
analogies.
analogies you can make to make it real for them and help them understand, oh,
Yeah.
I can, and I love that, because you've heard the expression like flip your lid. I don't know if people
Right.
still use that expression, but, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're literally flipping your lid. And so, just even explaining this to kids, and I think as teachers we're getting better, and as a parent I'm trying to get better about being explicit, because I think we do lots of things with our children that we know we're doing, but I don't think they know they're doing it, if that makes sense to you. Like in math, like we have the math practices of what things that good mathematicians do. They use models and tools, and they argue and they debate. And so we want our children doing that, but now we realize, oh, we need to tell them they're doing that. Did you know that you just used a model? Oh, you were just debating with her and sharing your thinking. Instead of just having them do it, we tell them, this is what you're doing, and then it makes it that much stronger and better. So by explaining these things to them, by explaining, oh, this is what just happened for you, right? So instead of saying got angry, oh, you know what happened? Your prefrontal cortex went, whoop, it's closed for business, and then this guy took over, right? And this guy's like, and you can say, sometimes we say it's like the caveman. No, being angry, right? Like, but that's what happened. That's your caveman brain. And so if you can be explicit with children and explain, well, that's what just happened, then it also kind of takes the onus off. Like, you're not a terrible person, right? You just flipped your lid, right? And this person took over and thought they were fighting a saber-toothed tiger. Like, that's what just happened, and that's okay. And we're going to come back and put it back down. So just take a quick, like, 30-second turn and talk. Turn to a partner, and just see if you can kind of quickly explain the brain model to them. So we'll just do one quick turn and talk.